Each year, the call goes out from the City of Hillsboro to our community members, inviting people to participate on our commissions, our boards, and our councils. And each year, dozens of people step forward to apply and to serve. Now, for some, it's a calling to serve the community and be a part of the public policy conversations. But for others, it may be intimidating to apply, or it just may, I don't have much to offer. Why would I, or what could I bring to the table? So today, we are meeting with some of the people who serve on our boards, commissions, and councils to go over that process and to make it a little bit more familiar and hopefully encourage you to participate. So with me today, we have City Councilor Beach Pace, and Beach was first elected to the Hillsboro City Council in 2018 and then re-elected in 2022. You also are on the Transportation Committee, previously served on the Hillsboro Planning Commission, and when you're not serving in Hillsboro, you are serving as the CEO for Big Brother, Big Sister in the Pacific Northwest. That's right. Ramon Cancel is currently a member of our Hillsboro Arts and Culture Council, or the HAC, and you are former HAC chair as well as a director at Intel. And Mujidat Saaka is currently a member of the Hillsboro Planning Commission and works as a data analyst for TON Analytics. Thank you all for being here with me today. And we'll start off just by asking you, what was your main takeaway from having served in your roles during the time that you've been on council or boards or commission?
I would say the main takeaway from the Planning Commission and also council is just being able to help the community, to listen, to understand what people's concerns are, and then help bring those concerns into my decision making to help make the best decisions possible to help the city. So I love doing that.
Nice. So. Good. Thanks.
So from my perspective, I'd say it really opened my eyes to see how things work in the government side of things versus the private industry. Mm-hmm. So the main takeaway is how we use consensus and feedback from different people from different backgrounds to try to make a decision that's best for the city. And in our case, we're talking about art that is hopefully representative of diversity and the community and that resonates with the most people.
Thank you. Mujidat.
I think the main takeaway is the subject matter experts, the brilliant minds that come together to create these policies that impact the quality of our lives, and just being able to be a part of that.
Nice. And so what motivated you originally to get involved?
Okay, the rabbit hole began when I first landed here in the Pacific Northwest, and the quality of the air, I felt like I could taste a difference. Mm-hmm. At first I thought I was like hallucinating, and then I asked other people like, no, the air is fresh here in comparison to what you're used to. And I remember Googling and searching it, and they said Hillsboro has a policy around nature, right? And we're prioritizing it as a city. And so that is where my curiosity really began. And I started to realize how the decisions that the city makes impact the air we breathe.
Nice, nice. Ramon, what motivated you?
So in my case, coming from Intel and having been there for many years, Intel does promote the involvement of their employees in the community, and this is something that, as a leader in the company, I knew I should try to seek that sort of opportunity. And it just so happens that I'm also a musician, and I had been performing throughout the city in different venues. So I was approached by somebody in the HAC to see if I was interested. I would be interested in serving, and here I am, I guess now 5 years after, or 6 years after.
Good for you. Good. Yeah. In Beach, you've moved from Planning Commission to the City Council.
But I think it was part of our family growing up. Service was expected, and I also really enjoyed it as a kid. And then I took it into my military service, and then when I moved up to Hillsboro, I've been a chronic volunteer, volunteering everywhere. And people started mentioning, hey, have you thought about running for office? And I didn't do that right away. I wanted to learn more about how the city worked, and I was able to do that through Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When my son, Michael, who's now 33, and when he was a kid, when he was probably third grade, about 8, and he said, Hillsboro's a great place to be a kid and grow up. And normally you have to reach adulthood, look back on your childhood years, and you realize that about the city where you were raised. And, I realized that he could say that because of the volunteerism and the service, of people who came before. And so for me, it was the motivation to help pay it forward and to provide for other families what was provided, for mine. And, being a part of the original 2020, vision and task force to really, help make that roadmap. And, when Mayor Hughes asked if I'd be interested in the, in the budget committee, it's like, yeah. And so to begin to see kind of the inner workings of government has been really beneficial and eye-opening as well. Ramon, you mentioned that you're a musician. And do you think that you have to be an expert or have that as part of your background in order to, serve on HAC or any commission? Is development part of your background, either one for the Planning Commission?
Yeah, so I'd say that's how I was recruited. But frankly speaking, you don't have to be an artist to serve in the HAC. And there's within the people in the group, there's some who are artists. There's others who just appreciate art. And I think we're looking for that also diversity in thought and opinions. And that's really, what makes us better. So I assume that this is also something that is true with other opportunities for volunteering in the city.
Nice.
I wouldn't say I have a development background, but I have a lived experience.
Sure.
And a curiosity and an openness to learn and be a constant learner. And so I think those qualities are really essential in helping me be a planning commissioner.
Mm-hmm. And making sure that you are able to ask the questions that you want to know the answers for.
You're right. You have to be in the room to ask the question that then changes the conversation.
Yeah, good.
I think it was a curiosity for me. When I was growing up, I saw my city and how it worked or did not work. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the only way. And then when I was in the service and living in Europe, I saw how they developed cities that were focused around people, not cars. Mm-hmm. And then moving back to the US and seeing how some cities were planned really well and others were not. So I'm not a developer, I'm not an urban planner, but I have an intense curiosity as to how can we plan something to make it awesome for the people who live there. Mm-hmm. And so having the opportunity to serve on Planning Commission with staff who could train me in codes and requirements and things like that, but then I was still able to lend my 2 cents about how I felt something should be designed or placed, or how playgrounds should be bigger or exist at all in new parts of the city. I really love that and appreciate it.
Yeah. When we moved to Hillsboro and we would drive in on Evergreen Boulevard and, just a beautiful tree-lined, street. And it wasn't until I was a member of the Planning Commission and learned of the term streetscape and realized that, oh yeah, that was purposeful and deliberate. And the reason that it's beautiful was not by accident. It was designed that way. And that to me, again, reinforced the importance of good planning and good oversight by the Planning Commission. Now, how long did each of you live in Hillsboro before you applied? Okay, we're gonna start.
2 months.
2 months.
There was a dinner conversation, and that's when we realized, oh, we're the adults in the room.
Yeah.
It was kind of shocking. Mm-hmm. And then when we got over that, we were like, oh, okay, so I have to impact my life now. I have to be in that room and ask those questions. Mm-hmm. And so that was really the start of it. It was, I feel like I can do it. I can be an adult if it's only 2 times a month where I have to sit in a room. And that was really what began that journey. And I applied. I didn't hear anything back. And so I just kept emailing, I think on the monthly basis, before I finally got notified that we want you to come in and have a conversation. And that was the beginning.
Ramon.
So in my case, I had been here for about 17 years before I started volunteering, which worked out great because I had small children before, and now that my children are a little bit older, it affords me, the time and the flexibility to serve.
Nice.
I was here about 5 years, and in that 5 years, I was volunteering at my kids' school or with Parks and Rec or with political groups or whatever. And then some folks approached me and asked if I would be interested in running. And I decided to do the planning commission before I did the run. But yeah, 5 years.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, so on planning commission and city council, they are entities that have legal authority. And where HAC is more consensus based. And so when you are dealing with quasi-judicial kinds of issues, and you have people who are testifying, oppose, in favor or not in favor, and that decision is going to disappoint some folks. How that's a tough position to be in when this is just a voluntary role. What's that like, and how do you embrace it? How do you deal with it?
I appreciate it. I appreciate when people come in to let the council know how they feel, and I'm often learning, and I especially appreciate it from somebody who's in the area or on the street or the neighborhood or whatever that is going to be impacted. Because it's one thing to read a report, and it's an entirely different thing to be there. So even if I disagree with somebody, I appreciate it, and I feel it makes the decisions better.
Good.
So I feel like this theme always comes up in planning commission meetings: public benefit. We want to make a decision that impacts and positively supports public benefit, and constantly defining what that is. And there's so many perspectives on that. But the beauty is that everyone in that room, all of staff, all of the planning commission, all of the individuals from the community who come to speak, all have an intention to do what is best. And so I feel like every night we walk away with that belief and that peace that we did what was best. That was our intention, and we really believe that the action will mirror that. And it's always beautiful when we're able to drive around our city and see like, oh, that was our decision.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice. I can relate to those answers so well. And it was interesting when I served on the planning commission, our president was John Coulter. And there was one time when we went to some apartments because John was looking for some temporary housing in between residences. And we realized as we went to the office that this was an apartment complex that had come before us on planning commission. And, we had tweaked things here and there to make it better for the community. And it was, to see it, in a tangible way is pretty remarkable, pretty gratifying. Ramon, how have you benefited individually, personally, from your time on HAC and your service?
So I already mentioned how it exposed me to how government works, outside of the kind of the private industry, but also getting to meet people from all sorts of diverse backgrounds and not necessarily from the high-tech world, right? So I think this is something that was eye-opening. Also, getting the ability to meet some of the local artists here in the area, and being able to help them by either providing funding for certain things or maybe selecting them for certain artwork in the city. Those are very fulfilling experiences.
Good. Mujidat.
Having the opportunity to exercise my voice, I don't believe I probably learned how to do that in my little one household, but being able to do this on a bigger scale and being surrounded by other, again, like-minded individuals, and how much I've been able to learn. And it's not just for me, but I'm able to take those gems of knowledge and share it with other members of the community who don't have the opportunity. And I also think I've had the privilege of being able to model what's possible for some individuals to see that, oh, my perspective matters and I can have an impact in this way.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to follow those two, but I would say I've really enjoyed being able to make decisions that help the community. And similar to what Mujidat mentioned about intent, and you mentioned it too, is that I've never really questioned the intent on planning commission or council. I feel that even if I disagreed with somebody, the intent was for a better community. And so I think that's a really neat thing to be able to serve with people like that who have the best of intentions. And I've also got to meet some really great community members who are now friends.
Yeah.
You know, I met them first at a microphone, and now we're friends. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, the friendship piece for me just can't be overstated. You know, you begin to engage and interact with people, you know, every other week. But, you know, then as you just experience, you know, out and about our farmers market or at other social events, and you really develop those relationships. And, you know, my time on planning commission, you know, and some of these things is long gone, but the relationships with those who we served with and also those who we heard from continues, and very, very meaningful and very, very special. And I think that then also strengthens, you know, the fabric of our community in meaningful and important ways. Any challenges to serving on, you know, as counselor, planning commissioner, or arts and culture council member?
Oh, it's all easy. I think when people are upset with decisions, that can be challenging sometimes, or when you just have tough decisions to make. When there aren't two sides to a story, there's like 20. To keep all that in mind, I think that can be a challenge. Again, always working toward making the best decision for the community, which can be interpreted many different ways. So sometimes that can be challenging.
Yeah.
I would say the challenge that first comes to mind is Planning Commission does meet twice a month, but I'm so grateful that the city allows us these hybrid meetings. So that has created some flexibility. Something else is I'm not a lawyer, and this is my first time really looking at codes in this way. But again, having amazing support from staff and being able to ask clarifying questions has helped me kind of get over the hump of that little bit of struggle.
Nice.
And I can think of anything particularly challenging. The time commitment is really not that big, and we only meet once a month. And the degree of involvement really differs from one person to another depending on how much time they have available. So I can't really think of something that was super challenging. And we do make decisions as well when it comes to selecting certain artists or art. But those are generally things that are not in the open, and they don't happen in front of the artist, of course. So it's a very comfortable environment, and like you said, it's also consensus based.
Yeah. Now, Mujidat, you mentioned Planning Commission meets a couple of times a month, and it's in the evenings. Ramon, your meetings are late afternoon into evenings, and
Correct.
And of course, council.
Council, yeah, we meet twice a month in the evenings, and then we're asked to serve on either Finance Committee or Transportation Committee, so that's another Tuesday. So it's 3 Tuesdays out of the month in the evening. And then it's optional, this piece, to go out into the community and be at events. I love that. I love being out and talking to people and hearing from them, good, bad, or indifferent, to just understand what's going on in their world. And I did the math once, and it's about 50 hours a month, if you include that. But the other thing is, we mentioned the meetings. There's also preparation for the meetings. Reading these packets, which can sometimes be extensive, asking staff for clarity, or could you explain this? I mean, there's some work that goes into that, but it also makes it easier. When you're prepared, it makes it easier in the meetings.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, that all adds up to the time.
Yeah. Hillsboro, we're 110,000 people, and we are the most diverse large city state. And, so do you see that diversity represented on the boards and commissions in which you serve?
I like to throw out a stat.
Sure.
So about 49% of Hillsboro residents identify as non-white. And I want to say that I feel that diversity on Planning Commission. There's a diversity in gender, a diversity in race, and I remember Beach even mentioned a socioeconomic diversity that is present there. And that has improved our decision making because there's such beauty in such a diverse set of individuals. And we know that it's helping to build a beautiful city.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
I would say there's definitely a pretty broad representation of diverse backgrounds and in different dimensions as part of the people that make up the hack. Also, to the point, the diversity point, it's interesting also that whenever we select certain artwork, we try to be very conscious of that and how it will fit in the community and really feel like something that people from all sorts of various backgrounds can embrace the artwork. So it's definitely something intentional, as somebody else mentioned earlier.
Good.
Yeah, I've noticed a difference when I first started serving on Planning Commission, how that changed, and it became much more diverse. And then I've noticed that on council. When I joined council, there was only one other woman, and now there's 4 of us. I also think there is some better representation racially and then definitely socioeconomically. I've noticed when I first joined council, there was 4 people who were retired, and now there's 1. That's you. Everyone else is working full time, and that's going to make a difference in the decisions we make for the community. And I personally think that it makes for better decisions.
We had, the mayor appoints, members for the boards, councils, commissions, and the city council approves. And it's part of our consent agenda. And several years ago, we had an individual who spoke during our public testimony time who had read through the consent agenda and noticed that, based on surnames, and he acknowledged he was making some assumptions, but based on surnames alone, this was, more of the appointees were, people of color from our BIPOC, community. And he said this is the first time, and as a member of the Latino community, it was just profound for him to see this. And so it sends that message that people notice. And when we, make deliberate and strategic, decisions.
Exactly, and that came from council,
Yes.
right? This doesn't just happen, right? Council
Correct.
says diversity at conclusion is important to them.
Yeah.
When you have a council that has representation, that comes to rise up
Yeah.
and become something important to council. And then you notice it in Civic Leadership Academy and then all of the committees and commissions. It makes a big difference. But it started with the intentionality of council and different council members. And I love that. I love seeing it. Yeah. And I've seen the difference in the people applying to Civic Leadership Academy as well. The diversity in that group alone has changed.
Yeah.
So
to those who are watching and maybe they're on the fence, about should I apply, should I not apply? What's your argument? What's your words of advice, to those who are considering it? And anybody can jump in.
I feel like if you're thinking about it, just you're there,
Okay.
right? If it's on your mind, if you're watching this video, you should probably apply.
Yeah,
because you're taking the time to research it and look into it. And I have learned so much, and you've heard from others today. If you're thinking about it, you probably should be doing it. I'll say that. So I keep saying that too.
Yeah, I'd say there's many opportunities for volunteering out there, right? And depending on how much time you have to commit, you can really choose. If it's a couple of hours a month, that's fine. The hack doesn't really require more than a couple hours a month. But obviously there's subcommittees and stuff that you can get involved in, and then you can contribute with more time. But I'd say at the end of the day, you're just volunteering, right? it is a commitment, but you're volunteering, and everybody respects that as well. But once you get involved, I can say I never thought I was going to be there for more than a couple of years. And look, I've been there for 5 or 6 years already, and looking forward to remaining involved in some capacity.
Good.
I would say your perspective is valid, and that by serving, you have an opportunity to improve not only your quality of life, but the lives of those you love and your community at large.
Good. And if somebody's not selected, the first time around,
Try again.
try again.
Apply again. Absolutely.
We, as a city, we implemented term limits for people who are on our boards, councils, and commissions. And that was specific so that we could allow the opportunity for more people to get involved. And it was a hard thing to do, because we've had some incredible, commissioners and councilors and board members who have served, for 10 years or more. But the way to get, as we continue to grow and to get the voices and perspectives of those who have been here 2 months, is to make sure that there's opportunities for that. And I appreciate, your comment, try again, because we do keep the applications for a couple of years. And we also, encourage folks to look into our Civic Leadership Academy. The Chamber has a leadership program. You can work on some committees for the school district, for instance.
You can also attend.
Yeah.
Right? If you're interested in planning commission, go to a planning commission meeting. If you're interested in a hack, they can go, right? People can attend.
Yeah.
Right? Check it out first.
Good.
So.
They're posted online too.
Oh,
That's right. Yeah.
You don't have to go on right then. You can watch it. Yeah.
And, and I think another important thing is, as Ramon, as you mentioned, you're now in your second term. If it's not a good fit, you don't have to stay with it. We've had people who were eligible for a second term and they decided, nope, after 3 years or, 1 or 2 years, I've realized this isn't, what I'm interested in, and it's not fair to me or the city, to continue. And so you're not obligated, to do it forever. And so try it, see if you like it. And that's a great way to give back as well.
Yeah.
And then even the benefit of being in these rooms and what you learn, it has the ability to kind of change your trajectory career-wise. It can change the friendships that you have in your life. So it really is a win-win.
Yeah, nice.
And you mentioned if it's just not a good fit. Also, if your life is right.
Sure.
When I was on planning commission, one of my sister commissioners had a second kiddo. And she said, okay, I should step off. And she did. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
So the city is flexible for that as well. If your life situation changes, no problem.
Great. Well, any last words, for those who are watching?
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the experience. And I would again encourage anybody watching this to definitely give it a try. Attend the meetings, ask the questions. Reach out to us or to other commissioners, councilors, committee members to ask about our experiences.
Great.
Yeah, I would say just try it out, and you will probably not regret it. You'll end up spending, I shouldn't say spending, but investing in the community for the rest of your career, right?
Nice.
I think this is just a beautiful part of anyone's journey in life, is to really get this experience and understanding how so many minds can come together to create for us a part of our world. And so I think it's a beautiful experience.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to visit with you all today. And I hope one of your takeaways is that whether you have lived in Hillsboro for 2 months or 17 years, there's always the right time to get involved. And there's always a place for your voice, your perspective, your experience, your passion, and your interests to be used and to make a difference in our community. So thanks so much for joining Community Conversations. Thank you again for being here. And this has been informative and wonderful. And I know those who are watching feel the same way. Take care, and we'll see you on the next episode of Community Conversations.